All right, so it seems that more and more couples are not choosing to have children. Instead, they make choices in order to benefit themselves or even choose to have pets over bringing children into the world. What are the ramifications for this? Is there anything wrong with it? And just how common is the issue? So, I have a good friend, let's call her Jane just for the sake of her anonymity, who can't have children. And let me tell you, it breaks her heart because she's in her mid 20s, she's always dreamed about being a mother, and in high school it all changed. She had to have numerous surgeries for PCOS, and essentially her body is out of commission when it comes to being able to have children. She's looked into adoption, medical assistance, but it was really expensive, and her and her dear husband's insurance wouldn't cover for any of it, so they couldn't really afford it. And unfortunately, this story applies to many women and not just Jane. So I'm sure that you might know someone in a similar situation. This is a case where if someone could bring children into the world, they would, yet there are many who would choose not to purely for selfish reasons. I'm personally terrified of having children, but stories like this help me realize how blessed I am to at least have the option of bringing them into the world. So in 1957, there were about 3.8 births per woman, and in 2010 that rate dropped to about 1.9. Obviously, not every woman has 1.9 children, but it shows that fewer women are choosing to have multiple children or any at all. I can see this as being a problem in the future, especially regarding things like Social Security in the US. With fewer children being born, there will be fewer people to join the workforce 20 years down the road and to contribute to things like Social Security, making less available for the elderly, and not just then, but even years after that. Also, Americans are living longer, meaning there will be more who require those benefits when they get older. Fewer children means fewer resources in the future. Idaho and Utah have the most children per family in the US at 2.01 and 2.21 children per family, respectively. As you probably already know, the LDS Church is very adamant about expressing the importance of the family. Seeing as Idaho and Utah have high LDS populations, it's not surprising that they have more children per family than other states. If you go to hhs.gov or benefits.gov, you'll find contact information about federal programs available with services to help children and families in need. There's a list of health and human services and child care or child support programs there. HHS administers many programs regarding the well-being of both economic and social of children and families. Among them is adoption. This would be especially helpful for someone in Jane's situation. So if you're like me and nervous about having kids, I encourage you to think about how blessed you are to have that option. If you are someone you know is unable to have children, know that it's okay. There are resources out there to help with adoption, fertility, and so forth. You're not alone. For those of you who like having pets or your freedom to do as you please, that's not a bad thing, but I promise that having children will be such a blessing and will add an entirely new dimension of meaning to your life. I don't think I've ever met a family who regretted having kids. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, absolutely. So one question I have for you is, let's just say you have a friend that is one of these people that doesn't want to have children. They are like 100% against children. What would be something you would say to maybe sway them to having children?
I'd probably tell them that I feel very similar sometimes. Like, I like my freedom, I like being able to do things, but kids just kind of add a little something to life. Like I said before, I've never really met a family who regretted having children, and I don't know, it just gives you like more of a purpose. I would tell them that they would have someone else to care for other than themselves. And there's benefits that come with it too. I mean, you have a chance to bring a little bit of yourself into the world. You can raise someone to help care for you when you get older. There are so many benefits to it. I just think, and it's a really wonderful thing.
Awesome. And one other question I have for you is for like people who are getting like up there in age, who are still childless just because either they're not married or maybe they're not, like they are married but they're not in like a good financial place to have children. Do you have any like advice that you could give them who like, but they do want to have children, they're just either not married or maybe don't have the finances?
Yeah, so like I said, there was a website they could go to. It's called, let me see if I can find it for you, hhs.gov or benefits.gov, and there was a whole list of resources, and some of them were financial for people in that situation. So they could click on those links, and it would give them a list of resources maybe in their area where they could look up programs they could join to maybe help with that when it comes to finances, or even I think there's even some with housing, and there's benefits, and there's a lot of resources there. I don't know if a lot of people know about that, but it's there.
Awesome. I don't think I have any more questions. Did you find, oh, one question I do have. In your research, did you find any like interesting laws or anything like that for people who like for the population decrease, or why like the law, like is there like a law, weird laws that have to do with population?
Well, I know that a while ago China had the one child policy, and that caused a lot of problems because a lot of couples would want to have boys, just to carry on the name, and they could only have one child. So that kind of had a huge impact on the population, and people's choices resulted in more boys, more men than women, essentially. And then, let's see. So are you asking if there are any laws about like the effects of not having children, or just laws that have to do with having children?
Like, are there any laws that have affected like other, like, yeah, that have affected either the child population or not having like children, or having too many children, or
There are some tax laws where you can get benefits for having more children, so I know some people have kids for that reason. But yeah, if you go to like the irs.gov or something, you can look at those rules when it comes to getting benefits or tax deductions when it's finance related. You can find more information about that there.
well, perfect. I think that's all I have.
Okay. Well, thanks, Allison. I'll stop recording now.
You're welcome. I really liked your speech. It was really good.